Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Zach Siligus Inc., and this is a new little show I'm going to be doing, where basically I detail the adventures that have been going on in our Dungeons & Dragons live stream campaign. The rationale behind this is apparently, I can't actually see the chat, but I do get a little report on it from Phoenix. She's sort of designated chat observer and reporter. And apparently, some people were kind of lost, which actually makes sense. Some of them hadn't seen the stream before, apparently, and so didn't really know what was going on. So basically, from now on, instead of doing little update videos for each stream, because they all take place on the same day, same time, I'm going to be doing this. And in case you're curious, yes, there will be another stream this weekend on Sunday at the same times. It's all down in the description. So feel free to watch that. I'm not going to detail the story since the beginning because in the very first live stream update video, I gave a description of all the characters and the story up until that point. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to make a playlist up for these, and I'm going to put this in it, and I'm going to put that update video in it. So if you haven't seen that video, go to my channel and check out the playlists, and you should be able to find it, and then that will get you up to this point. So, let's see. Basically, I think where that video ended was the party was in the Shadow Realm, and had been surrounded by the ghosts of their old enemies, the members of the Flaming Fist. Soda. Anyway, so yeah, they'd been surrounded, and they fought them. And once this was done, they were once again approached by the Eladrin assassin, the Shadow Eladrin assassin, and his were-feline girlfriend. And you'll have to forgive me because this was like 3 weeks ago. My memory's kind of fuzzy. He examines Stalworth's bite wound. I don't remember if he did that the first time they met or this time, but it is a plot point that later on, But he does examine Stalworth's bite wound from the werewolf, and they chat for a while, and the party is eventually broken up when suddenly they notice a bird in the sky, and the bird descends. Shade and his girlfriend. Shade's the name of the Shadow Eladrin assassin. I think I just said that before. And you'll need to forgive me because it's actually quite hot here, and yeah, I'm not really thinking straight. Anyway, but what fun would this be if I was thinking straight? That's not why you watch my Let's Plays. Anyway, so yeah, they run off, and as it turns out, the bird is actually the Raven Queen, who is the goddess of death. And Stalworth hits on her, and then after that, she says that she will lead them out of the Shadow Realm if they do her a favor when they're out there. They have to. She directs them to a certain town they need to go to that is important to their quest, which of course I detailed in the previous update video. So go watch that. So she just says that they need to keep her interests at the front of their mind when they go there. They need to champion her cause when they're in the town, and that's kind of all she says. So they go through. They're led into this Hall of Mirrors area, which is a sort of a teleportation chamber to all the different realms. Like there's one to the Fae realm, there's one to the real world, and then there's a blocked off mirror which leads to a like some kind of ancient city, basically like a city of the ancients. If you ever played Lands of Lore Guardians of Destiny, that's kind of what I was based on. If you haven't played Lands of Lore Guardians of Destiny, then you have no idea what I'm talking about when I mention the ancient city from that game. It's worth a play, though. It's a pretty good game. personally, I always preferred the first one, but anyway, that's all kind of not important right now. Anyway, so they go through the mirror. Well, actually, they come up to the mirrors, and the mirrors they'll show you whatever you're thinking about from that realm. They're attached to a fixed point in that world, but they'll show you any image from that world that you're thinking of. And Stallworth goes in first, being the tank. It shows, in the real world, it shows the armor matron. And in the Fey world, it shows his, like, Fey child. And then suddenly the succubus appears, and she's kind of pissed off that he's thinking of another woman. So she says that she's calling in her favor, and that it's to kill his girlfriend and his kid. So Stallworth protested that for, like, about a minute. He's like, that's not fair. And she's like, well, you gotta do it or I'll take you to hell. And then his response was, as I recall, I ain't going to hell. So he did just immediately, well, not immediately, but he accepted it uncomfortably fast, I thought. But Mary stopped him and asked for another way out. And the succubus said that if someone else wanted to sign another contract with her, then she would agree that she wouldn't make any member of the party attack each other, their loved ones, anything like that. So, after much debate, Stein Eric eventually got volunteered, and he signed a contract with the succubus, and so now they both have contracts with her. I wasn't going to allow Stein Eric to sign the contract the first time around, but this time I think it's kind of okay, because yeah, he's a lawful good cleric, but at the same time, it's to keep Stallworth from having to kill his family, so there's sort of a self-sacrifice thing in there, so I think it's okay. So after that, they go through back into the real world, and they're traveling along, and they eventually happen upon another Eladrin, like just a regular Eladrin, who is almost apprehended by several members of the Flaming Fist. And so the party then watched as the Eladrin handily dealt with all of them. He killed, like, all of them except for one, whom he cut off the guy's, like, gold purse, and then also cut off his penis, and stated that with those two sword strikes, he had removed the only two things the man possessed, which were of any interest to him. Later on, this guy talked to the party and revealed himself to be Stybok, the Eladrin. And, yeah, he just kind of chatted with him for a while. He didn't give anything add anything important yet, but it was kind of foreshadowing for later on. He did mention, though, that he was trying to track down this fellow named J-Rod, who had killed his family. His wife, actually. Not his family, but his wife. And he also warns them that there are flowers around that will put them to sleep, which everyone pretty much immediately locked onto as to what it would end up meaning. Namely that it was nearly the full moon, and Stallworth was going to change into a werewolf. I think it would be the next night. So the players immediately called me on the fact that I was throwing in a bullshit excuse so they couldn't just stay up and see if Stallworth would transform or not. So yeah, they wander around, night comes, they all get put to sleep by the flowers, and then the next day they find this village which seemed to have been attacked by wild animals. And the village elder, who's like this wizard dude, he sends them on a quest because he tells them there's a pack of wolves around there, and they've been harassing the village forever, and he thinks they did it, so he sends them out to deal with these wolves. So they search around this forest, but they have to search, so it takes them a while, and eventually night falls, and they all get put to sleep by the flowers. They wake up, they have to search around some more, and it's evening when they finally find the cave. They go in, they see that all the wolves They see the wolves, and they think they're just sleeping at first until they get closer and realize that all the wolves have been torn apart, too. And it's at this point that Stallworth transforms, and they all run away, and then they all go out into the forest, and they all pass out. There was a little continuity problem here, I thought, that Stallworth was clearly out and about, because kind of the way I had envisioned things going was Stallworth had attacked the village. They had just figured it was the wolves. The previous night, Stallworth had transformed again, had killed the wolves, and then on the last night he went out, and I think they mentioned that, I mentioned that when they found Stallworth, he wasn't with the party when they passed out, but they'd found him next to like a gored deer, basically. And I really have no explanation for why Stallworth didn't just kill the party while they were asleep. I don't know. I guess it goes by the bear logic that if you play dead, it'll ignore you. I don't know, honestly. But enough of that. Eventually they go back to the village. They just basically sum it up for the village chieftain that, yeah, the wolves are dealt with. And they do say that their friend has been afflicted with werewolfism. And so he does some tests, and from their description of what's been going on, he says he doesn't think Stallworth is a werewolf, but he offers to analyze, like, he takes a tissue sample, I don't know, he's gonna do like a biopsy or some shit. I don't know. So, yeah, so they take off. They go to this, to the town that the Raven Queen told them to go to. And this town, it's not actually a town, it's a halfling encampment. And at this point, the party kind of derailed my plan, because I was gonna have them go around, and they'd ask all these questions, and they'd eventually... Like, at first it just looked like they were just unfriendly towards everyone besides David. Turns out, like, the village was being harassed, and they had all been discriminated against because they were halflings. And then they were going to get revenge, so they teamed up with the god of necromancy, Venka, or however you say it. And then they would eventually have to kill everyone because they're with the Raven Queen, who obviously doesn't like undeath, since she's the goddess of death. That didn't really happen because David went in and immediately started acting as a missionary for the Raven Queen, which I really didn't see coming. So, I kind of had to think about how would they react to that. So the entire village just immediately attacked them, and zombies are rising up, and so they had this huge, long battle where they had to take on all the halflings and all these undead people at once. Yeah. But they do find some notes in the village that say that there was weird chanting coming from the forest. So they go and they check it out, and they find out they're attacked by these gnomes. And as it turns out, there was this group of gnomes that laid the curse on all the weapons and armor in the land. But then they were faced with a choice, because in order to do a spell of this magnitude, they had to tie it to the life force of one of their members. And since whenever that person dies, the spell will go out of effect, they chose the youngest member they had, so it was this little kid gnome, and they had to decide, would they kill a kid, or what would they do? They eventually decided they'd just leave, and try and get out of the radius, I guess, of the curse. The rationale behind this was that the gnomes wanted to stop war. So that's why they figured if they could get rid of all the weapons and armor, then there wouldn't be any wars anymore. The situation was still resolved because when the evil party, like the Dragonborn Paladin and his homies showed up, they just butchered everyone immediately. And then took off. So, you know, problem solved. Party's still morally in the clear, so, you know, everything's A-okay. So they return to the village to hear what the wizard, because their quest is over, so they go back to the wizard to hear about what's up with Stallworth. And to this point that they find out that Stallworth was not infected with werewolfism, and the bite mark was not actually the source of the infection, because no one knew this, but when I rolled for the 1 in 100 chance that Stallworth would become a werewolf, it did not come up positive. However, he does note that the infection does kind of stem from the bite mark, but it's not that he was bitten and infected, it's that later on someone implanted distilled venom from a were-feline in the wound. And so everyone, of course, figures immediately, well, it's Shade, the Eladrin assassin. So everyone pretty much unanimously decides to go back to the Shadow Realm to pound some payback out of his ass and hopefully find a cure. So they do that, and then that was the end of the D&D session. This is going to be a really long adventure log segment because I got to go through several streams. It will not be nearly this long in the future because I'm going to do one after every stream. Yeah, I got like 3 to go through. Anyway, that was the longest of them though. So they head back and they talk to Shade, and they talk to the Raven Queen, and the Raven Queen pretty much stonewalls them. And Shade disavows all knowledge of what was going on. What? I'm skipping ahead here. Actually, I skipped out most of it, actually. But what happened was they went back to the area with the mirror they were going to go through. But it turns out that it had actually been moved by a construction and shipping company called Gold Rock Construction. So they go and investigate that. As they were investigating, however, David was possessed by a ghost. The ghost of a female warrior named Phoenix Tsukino. And yeah, so she possessed him and took him over. And anyway, so they continued to investigate. They eventually found Gold Rock's mansion. They went in, and they found he'd been killed. And his dying words were marionette. And they didn't know what it meant. There was a puppet in his hand, and then that's it. Well, he wasn't killed, actually. I think Steineric tried to treat him. They put him in his bed, and they don't know whether he made it or not. They had to leave. So then they found some letters as to where it was shipping to, and they found out it was shipped to Smuggler's Cove. Like, all the artifacts from the warehouse where they had emerged from the mirror had been shipped there. So they head off to that town to try and find out what's going on. And they eventually make it there. And so they start looking around. And they find the next Gold Rock, another member of the Gold Rock family, which owns the construction company. And they warn him that someone might be trying to kill him, and they fill him in as to what happened to his sibling. And he takes them to his secret office, which is down in the slave market area of Smuggler's Cove, because Smuggler's Cove is kind of an evil town. So they go there, and along the way they find Stybok, who is simultaneously pleasuring 3 male sex slaves at the same time, as he holds a conversation with the party, which is impressive. You know. But, yeah, so he tells them that he found out that J-Rod actually works now for the Flaming Fist, and that he's continuing to investigate, and that's it with him for now. At least in this time period, but that's a whole other thing. Anyway, so they talk to Gold Rock, when suddenly he offers to pay them for them being bodyguards for him, and they accept, only to have him suddenly have, like, a sword thrust through him. And as it turns out, there's a person behind him who's wearing a theater tragedy mask, and who holds himself very similar to a puppet. They seem to be propelled by magical strings, as it were. Anyway, so this person takes off, and they did ask whether it was a man or a woman, but I specified they could not tell what gender the person was. So everyone takes off after him, and yes, thank you, kitty. So they take off after him, and eventually they chase him all through the city. They're on these, like, scaffolding. Phoenix falls off the scaffolding because Stallworth, he tries to knock it over to try and knock over, because he falls off. Then he tries to knock over the scaffolding. Thank you, computer. Thank you. Alright, so he tries to knock over the scaffolding to try and stop the guy, and then it knocks over it with the marionette person, but it also knocks it over because Mary and Phoenix were still on there, so it knocks them over too. Mary gets out, but Phoenix is buried in the rubble, so Stein-Eric tries to help her out, but he can't help her out, so they get thrown out of the chase. Then Stallworth and Mary follow the person through this crowd, but Mary gets lost in the crowd, so finally it's just Stallworth who finally catches up to this person. And he grabs her, but then they get pushed through this window. And then he gets attacked by the person, and he pushes Stallworth through this door down these stairs, and the stairs collapse, and then it's a whole other thing. Stallworth tries to fight him, but he finds out his weapon's gone, so he tries to fist fight him. And then he throws his sword up in the ceiling, and then this causes the roofing to fall down on Stallworth, and yeah, and so Stallworth is knocked out. And yeah, and so eventually the party catches up, they all pick themselves up, and they head back. They check out, well, what happens is they find this hotel, and they find these two girls who are staying there, Alice and her sister Alex, and Stallworth tries to put the moves on Alice. Kinda works, then her sister's jealous, then Alice tries to sneak into his room to try and jump his bones, but then he's like, no, and he takes her back to her sister. And then her sister tries to jump his bones, and he's just not having any of it. Obviously, he paid attention during my last little update where I detailed the story, which is that if your DM ever includes a woman who is an NPC who is sexually attracted to you, it's a trap. So he was paying attention, which is good for him, I guess. Bad for me, but that's a whole other thing. So, yeah. He doesn't have sex with them at all. For some reason, DMs are a lot like slasher movies, in that where kind of morality plays in a sick, perverted way. Because as soon as you try and have sex, we're gonna kill you in some way. You know, something's gonna happen. But yeah. He stays true to his principles, which is good, I guess. Anyway, the next day, Stallworth goes out on a date with Alice, and Mary actually does work, and finds out about Gold Rock construction, and they find out where the place has been shipped. They find this map that shows the location of a village where everything has been shipped to. I should note that while they're in Smuggler's Cove, everyone wanted to go shopping for clothes. And jewelry, which they did, but it was too expensive. And then, honestly, I was kind of upset that they were off shopping for jewelry. Not even like magical jewelry. No, they just wanted jewelry for some reason. I don't even know. So, I put in, you know what? I always try and scare them away. I put in, like, people who are not attractive in any way, and I have them hit on the players hoping that they'll leave. Like, I put in the 300-pound armor matron hitting on Stallworth to try and get him to run away. So I had this gay store clerk guy start hitting on Stein-Eric to try and get him to leave. But then they started having a discussion because would he give them a discount if they had sex with him? And yeah, he would, but who was gonna do it? Like, Stein-Eric, he didn't want to do it, and Stallworth, he didn't want to do it. Stallworth suggested to Phoenix that she ought to take one for the team, and she does. So Phoenix has sex with a gay dude inside of David's body, and it's a really not important side quest thing, but David's gonna be coming back in our next stream, and I have a feeling he's gonna be upset about it. So I'm just giving you some background as to why he's gonna be upset about it. This is the one time when I tried to help David, and it didn't work. But I did not want that to happen, because it just made my feelings for Phoenix really confused and kinda gay now, so yeah. Anyway, so yeah, they find out, they go to this village, and then turns out that the two sisters Stallworth is kinda with, they're adventuring because they've been cursed, and so they're trying to find a remove curse spell, so they're going with Stallworth because they're all gonna remove their curses together. So the six of them head out together, and they find this village. When they enter the village, the two girls, they don't notice it at first, but eventually they notice that as soon as they've entered the village, the two girls have completely disappeared. You know, they're just gone. So they talk to this village, and Stallworth is recognized immediately because it turns out the village was actually founded by Stallworth, but not the Stallworth that everyone knows. As it turns out, eventually, at some point in the far future, Stallworth is going to become a time traveler. And so future Stallworth went back in time and founded this village like thousands of years ago. And they've been waiting for this Stallworth, so they help him out. Like, they tell him that everything's been planned, and they give him this new weapon. And then turns out the weapon has like the spirit of like this snake woman like in it, and Stallworth accepts the weapon, even though it's pretty clearly evil, and it's like a life drinker weapon and all that. And it's supposed to be like a +6 weapon, but the magic on it is worn off, so if they find any source of ancient magic, they can power it up, but right now it's only +2. And then there's like this huge statue of Stallworth in the village, and underneath it, they're hiding the mirror into the Shadow Realm. So Stallworth, they talk to the village elder, they find out all this stuff, and then they go through the mirror and find themselves in the palace of the Raven Queen, which they had been redirected to. Because the Raven Queen, she's divine, she's got all these powers and stuff. So they talk to the Raven Queen, she stonewalls them. Shade denies everything, and the Raven Queen says that she's not going to help them. She's like, screw you guys, I mean, you guys are lame. And then Shade's like, but what about the Ancient Vault? So all the player characters are like, well, what is this Ancient Vault? So it turns out there's this vault of the weapons that the gods used to use, and it's all really powerful, but they all locked them away because they were too powerful. But then Shade, he mentions that the Bound One's chains are weakening, and that the gods need to prepare for this. So eventually the Raven Queen decides to let them go to the Ancient Vault and retrieve. Inside, they'll find potions that can cure any curse or anything like that, apparently. So they can get all the minor magical items, get a cure for Stallworth, and in return, they'll just bring all the god weapons back to her. So she gives them the key, and they go, and they get there. They just, because the Raven Queen adjusts the mirror so that when it sends them back to the real world, it sends them back to just outside the Ancient Vault. But as they're heading back out towards this mirror, they hear a noise in the castle. The party's split on what they want to do. Eventually they decide to go and check it out. Turns out it's the marionette person who challenges them, and Stallworth, he goes up and he takes a swing at him. And it doesn't do any damage. Like, it does a bunch of damage, but the guy, he's a marionette person, so it just negates all the damage, because, you know, even if you swing really hard at a marionette with a hammer, it's probably not going to do that much. He'll just knock it around. So yeah, then the marionette guy, he stabs Stallworth and basically guts him and ruins his dragon scale armor. And in case you're curious, he took the dragon scales. I don't think I made that clear during the stream, but he took the dragon scales, so there's no way to remake this armor. Yeah, he, dragon scales are pretty cool, so yeah. So the party quickly grabs Stallworth, because then he takes the dragon scales and he kicks them back over towards the party, and then the party grabs Stallworth's dead body and runs away. They head through the mirror, they find the ancient vault, they open it up, find a resurrect person potion, and they make Stallworth drink it. They get all geared up with more magical items, stuff. They find a cure lycanthropy potion, they give it to Stallworth, he downs it, so now he's cured of that. And then they find the god weapons. They enter into the god weapons room, and then they find Shade and his girlfriend and 2 marionette people. There's the guy with the tragedy mask that they'd already met several times before, and then there's the person with a comedy theater mask. Actually, I think it was the comedy person that they met inside the castle, because the comedy guy's always laughing maniacally. So they meet the 4 of them. Obviously, they're all in an alliance together. And then the party goes forward to try and stop him, because Shade tells them that he couldn't ever he couldn't steal the key, but he needed someone to open up the ancient vault so he could steal all the god weapons. And they did it, and Stallworth gets upset at him, because apparently up till that point he liked the guy. And I believe this is the point where he actually uses the line, "Nobody betrays James Stallworth," which was actually a really great delivery, but whatever. Anyway, so they all rush forward, and then they fall through this mirror and the floor, because you know me, I love teleporting mirrors. That's that's hardcore, dude. But this one doesn't take them to a different dimension. This one deposits them like 1,000 years in the future, in this post-apocalyptic future, where Shade has already conquered like the universe with the god weapons. So they investigate around, eventually get captured. They all get chained up, taken to this cliff where they're about to be thrown off. But then Stybok, like future Stybok, shows up, and he kills all the guards and he frees them. But they need to get the handcuffs off, and then that's where we left off for like the second D&D session. Oh boy. I've been going on for a while. This is a very long update video. I'm sorry, but we're on to the last session. I promise the next update video will be much shorter than this. Alright, so then after that they go back because they need to find the head guard's house so they can get the key from him to unlock their handcuffs, because they're all chained together. So they get through. Stybok bribes the guard. They get through. They get to the guy's house, and they sneak in through a second-story window, and then they listen in. There's this meeting going on, so they listen in on it, and then this wizard dude basically just chucks a fireball at the head guard. He does like a Kamehameha thing, and he blows the guy off. Like, he blows half of him off and splatters him on a wall, and it's nasty. And the meeting is adjourned because they just killed the host, so everyone leaves, and then they loot the guy's dead body. And then they take off, and it was during that meeting that they find out not only is there a controller for the time travel machine, there's also a rebellion going on outside of Shade's castle. So they head there, they go investigate the forest, find the rebel leaders, convince them to help out. So the rebels stage an all-out attack on Shade's castle. All the guards go out to basically massacre them, and they do. But while that's going on, everyone, the party and Stybok, sneak in, and they get to the area where all of the ancient stuff is, and then they go, and Stallworth knocks down the door, which alerts Shade and his girlfriend that they're there. So they start heading down there. But then they find out that the time travel mirror has been deactivated, so Mary has to start doing Arcana rolls to try and reactivate it, as everyone else tries to hold off Shade and his girlfriend. Stybok says that he'll take on Shade, and so he starts to duel him, while the rest of the party tries to take on the Werecat. And the party's not doing too bad against the Werecat, but Stybok basically just gets dominated by Shade, and he gets like his arm hacked off. And but he does score one hit right after that, because like Shade thinks he's down, but then Stybok gets like his second wind. He like cuts him once, and then he gets like decapitated. And then I threw in this awesome pun, because Stybok's gay, and so I had Shade say, "Now you really do need to find a man who will give you head." Because he's gay and decapitated. Oh, man. I spent hours trying to find that line. It was worth it. Anyway, but just in the nick of time, Mary, she gets the right roll, and she activates the mirror, and so everyone basically makes a beeline through it. And while they were there, I should point out, they noticed a cauldron of destruction, which is among the ancient artifacts. They didn't notice it the first time because they were too busy with Shade, but when they first went in there and saw the mirror was deactivated, they also noticed the cauldron of destruction, or the pot of destruction, or there was a big debate on what it was going to be called. It's the cauldron of destruction officially. So you time travel. They find out that they ended up too far in the past in this tent, and this dude walks in, and turns out he's from Stalwart's village. He gives them a control device. He sets it for the time they need to go to. And he asks for Stalwart's, because while they were with the place where he kept the time travel machine, they also found the future version of Stalwart's hammer. But so they took that. So Stalwart had two of the same hammer. He gave the other one to the guy who gave him the control device, and they also gave him the key to the ancient vault. So then they use the control device. They go forward in time to right before, well, a little ways before Shade shows up, and then they throw all the god weapons into the cauldron of destruction, which destroys anything that goes into it. And so then all the god weapons are destroyed. And then this old guy shows up, and everyone wants to kill him, but it turns out he's actually the older version of the guy they met before, who Stalwart gave the hammer to and gave them the control device and all that. And so, as it turns out, like, he used the ancient vault key to open it up. He put the time travel machine back there, because it wasn't originally there. And he, yeah, and so that's why they're there, but then, you know, really logically, he probably could have just stuffed all the god weapons into the cauldron of destruction himself, but, like, it was, I guess it was, like, the Stalwarts and the party's, like, destiny to do it or some shit. I don't know. Don't judge me. Time travel stories are hard, okay? Anyway, so he shows up, he asks for the control device back. First, he sets the time travel machine to the right time, back to their own time. And so he does that, and then he leaves with the control device, because they can't have it yet. So they eventually pass through the time travel machine. They wind up right back right after they left, and they see that all the god weapons have suddenly disappeared. Time flows weirdly in the time travel machine room, because ancient magic and stuff. So Shade's pissed off, and he tells the two marionette dudes to kill the party. But they say that they already fulfilled their contract, which was to see to it that the party ended up in the ancient vault and that they went through the time travel machine. So they demand their payment. So Shade's angry, but he pays them off, and then the two of them leave, and then Shade buggers off himself, swearing revenge. So they go back through the mirror, back to the Shadow Realm, to report to the Raven Queen everything that happened and to get their praise and adulation. And they think that the Raven Queen will then, as a favor to them, will cure Stalwart's two girlfriends Star Wars girlfriend and her sister of their curse. They get back and they accuse Shade of wrongdoing, and he denies all the charges, and there's no proof, so there's nothing they can do. And then they tell the Raven Queen they destroyed the god weapons, but she's actually pissed off by this because she needed the god weapons. So they're all like, you know, we needed to because Shade, we was gonna, like, use them to take over the world, and then Shade says that they obviously just failed in their mission, and they're, you know, coming up with these crazy stories to try and, you know, cover their own incompetence. And it's a whole big thing. Nothing's resolved. The Raven Queen's still pissed off, so she says they have to serve her until she decides to release them. And so she sends them to the town of Amon, and she said, just wait there until I tell you what to do. So they go there, and then, so they traveled, like, the dimensional mirror has been set to there. So they go through the mirror, and then they turn up back where, in Amon. So they're walking around, and then as they're leaving this place, they're, set upon by Alice, Star Wars girlfriend, who says that she was kidnapped, she and her sister were kidnapped by Shade, and that their curse is that they're, like, just really horny all the time, which is not that bad of a curse, I wouldn't think. I'm not sure why Star Wars would be interested in curing them of this, but, you know, I guess he's a nice guy, so that's good, you know. So Shade used this against them and kidnapped them, and she escaped, though, and so she saw them, they're being held in the Shadow Realm. She saw Stalworth in the party, so she ran up to them, and they went through the mirror ahead of her, but she caught up to them now, and so she asked them to go back with her to help her rescue her sister. So Stalworth and Stein-Erik decide to go through the mirror with her, but it turns out she just disappears. Like, they hear her scream ahead through, like, the teleportation tunnel, and then when they get to their destination, she's just gone. And they find out they're in an interdimensional prison, which they can't escape from. Eventually, Mary doesn't even care. She was pissed off that they wanted to go, like, help the, go back to the Shadow Realm. She knew something was up. But Phoenix wants to help them, so she calls on the Raven Queen, and, but she can't do it, so she hires a priest. She makes a donation so that the priest will call the Raven Queen for her. And she gives him, like, 400 gold pieces, because she's really... I gave her control of David's character, because he was gone for, like, 2 sessions, and she was really brutal to him. And, yeah, but it works. The Raven Queen shows up, and, so she finds out that they're in an interdimensional prison, and they were sent there by the Raven Queen because they weren't supposed to leave the town of Amon, and then she's just gonna let them stay in the prison until they, like, run out of food and die. And but Phoenix is like, don't do that, and so she offers to, like, serve the Raven Queen forever if they're like, oh, like, not David, but, like, Phoenix the ghost, because the goddess of death knows all about how she's a ghost and all that. So they get released, and then they all decide to just stay in the town until the Raven Queen tells them what to do, and then that was where we ended the last session. So when we pick up next time, which will be this Sunday at regular time, 11 Pacific Standard, 1 o'clock Central Time, 2 o'clock Eastern, it will be noon on, like, Mountain Time. Yeah, let's see, 7 o'clock English, and 8 o'clock Western European Time. That's where we're going to be picking up. So, if you sat through all this went on for a long time, and it was mostly me rambling, so if you sat through all that, I'm impressed. If you haven't seen the first video yet, go see that. You'd probably be pretty lost. I would have thought you'd have, at some point, have paused it and gone and looked for that other video of your own volition, but whatever. You're now completely caught up on the Dungeons & Dragons story, and you'll be able to see what happens next this Sunday. And then sometime next week, I'll probably be doing another one of these which will hopefully be like a third of the size. And yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later. Yeah. Gonna need to get to work on some Let's Plays. I'm thinking the first video will be up on Friday. It's kind of a deal because I haven't done Final Fantasy VI in a while, so I'm not sure where everything is, like all my saves and all that. So if everything goes to plan, it should be up on Friday. Also, I just posted another Johnny Hawk and the Haters music video a few days ago, so you might want to go check that out. That's my friend's like independent death metal band, and yeah. So I did a couple videos. I did one video for him like a really long time ago, and whenever I need music for something, I'll usually just go to his music because there's no like copyright on it, and he doesn't mind if I use it. So yeah, definitely go check that out, and if you like it, there's a playlist of a couple more things. I got another full music video I did, and then there's another Resident Evil video, which I lost the commentary for, so it's completely made up of some of his music. This is actually, the one I just did is actually one of their weaker songs, I think, which actually says a lot because it's still really good, I think. You know, I mean, this is just, they're not like a professional band or anything, they're just doing this for fun, so I think with the kind of quality they have, it's really pretty impressive. Anyway, so if you want to go check that out, that'd be great. So yeah, I'll see you guys later with hopefully some Final Fantasy VI. Yeah, so that's it for this little update video, this little adventure log, and I will see you guys later. Kiss, kiss. Actually, stop the video now, please.